Hey guys, today we're going to start and talk about coordinate planes. Coordinate planes is going to lead us into plotting points, graphing lines, and then it's going to lead us into some slopes, and then you will use this also next year when you go into Algebra 1. Okay, so our coordinate planes, okay, these are two intersecting lines that cross. Now, one is going to be a horizontal line, and one is going to be a vertical line. Okay. This one is your horizontal, which goes across your paper. Okay, your horizontal line is called your x-axis, whereas your vertical line, which goes up and down, is called your y-axis. I would like it if you have to graph, okay, make your x and y axis, that you label those every time. Okay, so make sure you label those every time. Now, when you have, I'm going to pull up one. All right, when you look at a coordinate plane, remember the horizontal line is your x-axis, so I'm going to label it. And your vertical is your y-axis. All right, now one of the main points of where these two lines intersect, where they cross, is called the origin. So this point right here is called your origin, and this point is 0, 0. So if we take for a minute this x-axis, now that looks like a normal line that we've plotted on from the beginning of the year when we were graphing inequalities and plotting points. We know that if this is 0, then my numbers to the right are positive, so it's going to be 1, 2, and they're going to be at every line that I draw there. Okay? And it continues on because of my line, so sometimes you have more points than that. When I go to the left, those are your negative points, so -1, -2, and so forth. Now, the y-axis is just a little different because we've not seen one up until now this year that goes up and down. So what's happened is they've taken another line and they've just flipped it vertically. So if I go up, those are positive. So from here, this is also 0. So we go 1, 2, 3, and we count up positively. And when we start back at 0, when we go down, those are your negative numbers. Okay. Anytime you are graphing or identifying a point, you're going to always use your reference from this 0, 0 point. Okay. Now, we look at these as ordered pairs. Now, an ordered pair is in parentheses. We have our x value first and then our y value. So you always want to move left or right first. So if I tell you I want you to graph the point 2, 4. This is your x, this is your y. So I want to move my x first. So from 0, I'm going to go find +2. We know +2 is to the right 2 spots. Do not put a point there. Then I'm going to do the y value. The y value says it's +4. So that means from this, I'm going to go up 4 lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can put my point. And if it had a letter beside of it, I would put a letter beside of my dot as well. Okay. Let's look at another point. Let's say we have point B, which is -2, -1. So again, you always start at your origin, which is 0, 0. You're going to move along your x-axis. So we're going to find our -2. And then we're going to move along our y-axis, or we're going to move up or down based upon our y value. That was -1, so we're going to go down 1, plot my point, and label. Okay. Now let's say for some reason we have a point over here, C, And I want you to tell me the ordered pair. Well, again, the first thing you're going to do is start at your origin, and you're going to go under, you're going to go all the way over until you get under that point. All right, so again, you're going to start at your origin, you're going to move over underneath that point and tell me what the x value is. So I'm moving to the left, which means those are negatives. So we have -1, 2, 3, -4 is underneath. So we know that C, the x value is -4. And I'm moving up, so that tells me positive. So I'm going to go up 3 lines. So I know my point is -4, 3. Okay. Now, if you're just given a blank piece of graph paper and you're asked to do it, remember, you're going to draw your line. I know these are not great. So here's your vertical line, which is your y-axis. If I can spell. And then we have a horizontal line. Sorry. That is your x-axis. We know our origin is here. You don't have to label that every time. But now, these x and y axis breaks myself down into what we call 4 quadrants. We have 4 sections. We have quadrant 1. And these are Roman numerals, so do not put a 1, okay? This is quadrant 2. Roman numeral for 2 looks like 2 I's together, 2 capital I's. Then we have quadrant 3. 3 looks like 3 I's together. And then we have quadrant 4. 4 looks like an I and a V, okay? Because in Roman numerals, a V stands for 5, so it's 1 before 5. So therefore, it's 4. Now, what type of numbers would fall in quadrant 1? So if I'm thinking about it, here's my origin. So these would be positive numbers and positive numbers. So my x would have to be positive and my y is positive. Quadrant 2, we always go counterclockwise to go in my quadrants, okay? So quadrant 2 is a negative x and a positive y. Quadrant 3 is a negative and a negative. And then quadrant 4 is a positive and a negative. Okay? Now, there's a couple other points that you could have, okay? And they might look like a point that would lay on your axes. Okay? These do not lie in a quadrant. They lie on the x or y axis. Now, let's look at those points, though. So if I had this point here, this point would look like 2, because I moved along my x2, positive 2, and I did not move off of it, so that would be 2, 0. So this one would lie on my x-axis. So when the y value is 0, I'm lying on my x-axis. So if I look at this one, I'm starting at my origin, I'm not moving any left or right. So that was a 0, and then 1, 2, 3, that was a positive 3. So this time I'm lying on my y-axis. So for it to lie on the y-axis, my x point has to be 0. Okay? So tonight for homework, I want you to take all the information you just learned here. You have a Google slide that I want you to fill in the blanks. Do not delete anything off of there. If you do, you need to undo and then go back and fix it. And then also you have a worksheet or two to do.